guys. Welcome back to another edition of A Thousand Movies Before You Die. I'm Toby, half the Toby Nate combo, doing a sort of a preview, sort of review. I'm not going to spoil this one because I really like this one. This one is called Moontide from 1942, starring Jean Gabin. I don't know much about him. He's a French actor, big in France, but also starring the amazing, one of my favorites, Ida Lupino, a real, I would say, feminist icon of Hollywood, show business her whole life. Early on, she was in the movies in the 20s. She directed the great The Hitchhiker, which is a really sort of a dark, pretty simple but dark noir that I really like, and directed a few others, and she I really like the way she brings her characters. They have a vulnerability that I really like, and she's great in this as a woman rescued. She was about to commit suicide, but who really steals the show is I almost forgot, Claude Rains, one of my favorites, is in this. He has sort of more of a secondary role. I don't want to call it a bit role, but he's sort of the main character whose name is Bobo. He's sort of his conscience. And the real stealer of the show, though, is the sort of villain played by Thomas Mitchell. Wow, he's amazing in this. Amazing in this. I think he may have actually, I think there was an Academy Award there for him. I'm not sure. I mean, if not, he deserves one. The movie did get a nomination for cinematography, and there were some other nominations for Ida Lupino for Best Supporting Actress. But really, great film. This is it takes place in California, sort of a fishing town in the 40s. These two, I would call them hard drinking drifters, Bobo and Tiny. They basically travel around from town to town looking for work. And Bobo's the guy who works, actually. Tiny just leeches off him and sort of looks for work for Bobo to do so that Tiny, can mooch off of him. So they end up in this town, and they get plastered one night, which seems to be a regular thing for them. And this is a really great sort of montage of them getting drunk, great music, sort of very surreal images. These two glass bottles, booze bottles, representing the hands of a clock, and they're going around, showing how long these guys are drinking. And after it's all said and done, Bobo, our main character, who's got this great French accent, right, because he's played by the French actor, got stinking drunk and wakes up on a floating bait barge, a very sort of gross place. We meet the owners of the bait barge, two Japanese fishermen played by Victor Sen Young, plays Takeo. We've seen him in, I think, the Bogart movie Across the Pacific, where he plays a Japanese guy. Really, I like him a lot when he shows up in movies. And another Japanese actor, Chester Gan. Actually, I don't know if they're Japanese. They're Asian American actors. And they met Bobo that night. They polished off a couple bottles of sake, in other words, more drinking we didn't even see in the montage. And they offer Bobo a job, right? And but as they tell him about the job, they also tell him that there was a murder last night of a man named, I think, Pop Kelly. And we see him that night in the montage. He's a nice old man sitting by the bar. And it turns out that morning, Bobo is wearing that guy's hat, Pop Kelly's hat. Nobody knows this yet. And these two fishermen tell him that Pop Kelly was murdered and he was strangled, which is important because Bobo has a history of blacking out, not remembering what he's done. Right? There was some sort of hint of a crime where they're coming from another town that Bobo may or may not have been involved in. And there's something in Bobo's past where he almost strangled his cousin in a fit of rage. He didn't, but he says he has very strong hands, and this combination of getting blinding drunk and not remembering at all what he does, and these powerful hands and this history makes him believe that he may have been involved here. That morning or that day, I think that evening that he, wakes up hungover that evening, he's on the beach and he notices a woman walking into the ocean trying to kill herself. He goes in, rescues her, brings her back to his bait barge, which is, he's now taken the job. And I don't know if he's taken the job yet, but anyway, he brings her back there, nurses her back to health. She has never had a home. She sees a bait barge across the river that's really, really nicely done, painted white, right? And so these two start to plan, to create this home together. They want to get married. It's a nice, relationship. The town, is in favor of it. Claude Rains is a great character. He's in favor of it. But one man, Tiny, he's not in favor at all because Bobo is Tiny's meal ticket. Everyone knows that the reference is even made to a pilot fish who leeches off a shark, and Tiny is that fish. And the townspeople at first try to hide the fact that Bobo and Ida Lupino's character are going to get married, and because they all know that if Tiny gets wind of this, right? I mean, he's going to try and ruin it, and he even says that, he says in tones that he's going to try and ruin this marriage. He obviously doesn't want to work, and Bobo does the working. So if Bobo doesn't, stays here and settles down with Ida, I think her name is Anna, Ida Lupino's character Anna, then there goes his meal ticket. So Tiny starts to mention that this crime that they were coming from, that sort of in the last town, turns out it was a murder, and it was Bobo who did the murder. This is what Tiny's saying. But they have this dog that they travel with, and this dog, is friends with everyone, and is Bobo's dog, but hates Tiny and attacks Tiny. So Tiny's already very suspicious. And so it turns out that maybe Tiny is responsible for what happened. Who knows what actually happened in the past? And so the question is, what will Tiny do? Is Tiny going to succeed in messing up this really nice, burgeoning relationship with two lost souls? One who just gets blistering drunk all the time. One of his payments for this working on this barge from the two Japanese guys is, gets, I think, $3 a day plus a bottle of sake. So it's all about getting drunk. He decides he's not going to do that anymore. He's not going to drink. And Ida Lupino, she's not going to try to kill herself anymore. These two have found each other, this sort of redemptive love story coming together. But there's a worm in that apple. And it's, again, beautiful acting by the actor who portrays Tiny. Really is one of my favorite. There's a scene with the fog, and he comes out of the fog, right? It's a very gritty, dark film, which I really like about it. It's a grimy port. The hut that they originally live in. I mean, it's a bait hut. I mean, even if you fix it up, it's going to smell like fish and be gross. And it's even sort of shown at the beginning where the bar they drink in, these three rich people are in there, and they order these fancy drinks like a champagne cocktail and all this stuff, and they don't have that, right? So they just get 3 beers, telling us that this is a lower working class town, and these are rough people, and they get completely shit faced every night and forget what they do. And you kind of get to see their lives, and in all of that sort of nastiness, this beautiful sort of redemptive love story develops. So you're gonna have to watch it to see if Bobo and Anna can find happiness, or if Tiny, just wonderfully, nastily played. I got to get his name again. Thomas Mitchell, fantastic. I think you check this one out. 1,000 Movies Before You Die. It's in the 200. I would say definitely a solid 200 for me. It's the characters are fun to watch. The story it's fairly basic, but it's a great watch. So check it out. There's been 1,000 movies before you die. You better get busy watching or get busy dying. See you next time. And thanks for joining us. And maybe you should hit like, and maybe you should subscribe, and all those things that I've never told you to do, but now might be nice.